everybody. It's March 10th. I hope you're having a good day. Listen, it's been a very busy few weeks. When I'm not on YouTube, I'm over on my Instagram, and I have been covering this 7M situation, which some of you are like, is there really a dance cult? And I'm like, yes. Why, yes, there is. So I know that you think, is this really even that interesting? And I will say, why, yes, it is, because it's taking over the industry. It is literally, everyone's talking about it. It's all over the place. Huge production companies are looking at making like documentaries about this guy. So this is sort of a different story that I've been following. Another story I've been following is what? Josh and the Duggars. All right, let's talk about this, because a couple weeks ago, I took the time to explain to you how the guidelines work in the federal system to give you an idea or guesstimate of where Josh Duggar potentially would land when it comes to the length of time he's going to spend away from Anna and the kids. Because let's be honest, Anna is never going to leave Josh. Well, maybe. I mean, never say never, because if it's like 20 years, that's a long time to wait. Although in the group that she's in, then she would really get martyr status. And women do believe, and they're taught like that if you can, endure, that you'll get bigger payoffs in heaven. So it's going to depend on how everything comes out of this. So sentencing is coming up. We are under 30 days. And there has been a lot of speculation. People all over are trying to figure out where Josh is going to land. And I've told you from the beginning what my feelings are and where I feel like he will be ending up based on who he is, what he's done, how he acted, and all these other factors. And I put together this whole video where I shared with you all the different guidelines that are used and the enhancements that can be added, and how a certain score is given, and then once that score is granted or given, there is a qualifies to a number of months for the sentence. His report that was issued by the PO took into account all of those things, and they issued that, and they put that in February. After the PO uploaded the post-trial report and the pre-sentencing report, his attorneys and the U.S. attorneys had an opportunity to respond. In the middle of all of that, Josh decided that he was going to also request a new trial, ask for a acquittal, or request that his case be one of the charges be thrown out because it was stayed. So after his conviction, the U.S. attorneys were out and they had a press conference, and they talked about how the sentencing would work and how he could potentially be charged or sentenced under both. So William Clayman, who is the U.S. attorney in the District of Arkansas, Western District of Arkansas, went on record and basically said technically he could still be sentenced under both, and he could be facing up to 40 years. That doesn't mean it'll happen. And it all comes down to how the judge plans to decide on if it is in fact double jeopardy to be charged on both. And that will be on the judge. So it's going to somewhere between 0 and 40, right? So I was explaining based on the factors that he has a score that's going to be pretty high, even without having any other convictions. And then we also don't know what they found if they did any sort of investigations into his kids. So his attorneys have gone ahead and they have objected. And I don't know what the objection is because it's filed under seal. And then the U.S. attorneys also provided their own responses to the report. So they can do a response or an objection. So they can say, yes, I agree with this, or no, I don't, and here's why. My guess is that Josh's team is going to say that whatever the score was too high and that he should get way less time. Like, I would not be surprised if his attorneys say he deserves 5 years. I would not be surprised at all. In these cases, the defense will generally go really low. And so I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. I also wouldn't be surprised if the prosecutors are like, we want 40, even if they don't get 40. I'm just saying. Again, so it's going to come down to the judge on whether or not he decides if it's double jeopardy for this specific second charge to be dismissed. And that will play a factor into how he's sentenced. Now, here's the interesting thing. There's been a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of like lawyers and just court people that have tried to play into account the different factors of the sentencing. A lot have tried to place him in the range of like 10 years. But the reason why I've said repeatedly that I feel like it'll be more than 10 years is because that was the initial plea offer that they offered to him in March of 2021. He declined the offer and he decided to move forward with the trial. So people said, well, he didn't decline an offer. He actually did, because had he taken the offer, they wouldn't have gone to trial. So they offer pleas standard when they go through this process to avoid trials ahead of time, and they present all the evidence to him ahead of time to avoid the trial. And they did this before the indictment. And in that case, they said it would be around 10 years. Now, they didn't, in the email we saw, they said they didn't agree to it, but we don't know what happened after that. So it's safe to say he rejected a plea deal. So here we are today, and the Sun actually spoke to someone who works in Los Angeles, and his name is Adam Michael Stacks, and he is an attorney. So Adam specializes in criminal law, and he says the judge doesn't have a lot of discretion because the formula used for sentencing. So I told you about the sentencing formula. And he says if the judge feels like he's worth saving, he'll go towards the lower end of the range. If Josh has a bad attitude in court, or if he is influenced by victims' statements, he'll aim for the higher range. Then they also said, for Josh, I believe he will get the higher sentence. Courts don't want to deal with being accused of giving special treatment and just giving a slap on the wrist. And he said the judge might say, people looked up to you. You were on television. You should have been a better example for the people who watched you. And now this attorney thinks that he'll get sentenced to 14 years. I don't know if that's true or not. The Sun looked at a table, and this was the table that they believed that he fell underneath. So I'm not sure. They said it could end up being anywhere from 6 to 14 years. I think it'll be in the teens, no matter what he ends up getting. If he gets 20, it would be amazing. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. But I think wherever he does fall, it's going to be at the higher end of the range. And when I was looking at the sentencing tables, I was looking at him being potentially higher than 14, but that was just my opinion. I don't see him getting 6 because they already offered him 10. So they're going to make an example of him. And I think they were very clear about that when they had their press conference, because they said no matter your status, no matter your wealth, no matter your position in society, you will be held accountable. So there's going to be so many factors that play into this. And then Josh's behavior during the trial, where he was walking around and he was laughing and he was just like interacting with people like nothing was going on, and he wasn't even taking the proceedings seriously, that will also play a role. And then on top of that, we're all wildly speculating because why? Because we don't know what's in the report. We don't know what the PO found. We don't know if there's any other aggravating factors that will be considered on top of what we do know about his situation. We don't know if they uncovered any behavior while he was out on bond. We don't know if any other things like if he broke rules will be added to his sentence length. We just don't know at this point. So we can only speculate. This attorney believes it'll be around 14 to 15 years. I'm sure for some of you that makes you feel very angry. Now, I don't know whether or not this will, like I said, I don't know if this will be the case. Now, another thing that you guys many of you asked and wanted to know, and I've told you this before, but Josh is not going to be housed in General Pop. So his specific situation is putting him in a place where he has to be separated. He has 2 specific factors that are working against him. So some people will say that Josh Duggar isn't famous and nobody cares about Josh Duggar. And I'm like, yeah, nobody cares. But then there's always people that do and will know about him because he's Josh Duggar. You just don't know, because that show was on the air for 20 years and his family has had such a big presence. His dad ran for Senate. You know, he's a visible person that even if you don't want to admit that he had fame, he had fame. And he's infamous, and this trial has been covered internationally. So he is going to be separated, more than likely, because People with the SOs don't get to go to Gen Pop, especially in federal prison. They separate them. And there's only, like I told you before, a few different places that he can go, and none of those are in Arkansas. Now, while he's in, it won't be like solitary confinement. It'll be like their own unit. That's what this attorney was explaining to the Sun. And he can get a job while he's in prison. He also could get he could also go to college. He could do a lot of different things to better himself and use his time effectively. But in terms of like, is he going to be in solitary confinement? Not really. It's different because he's not being punished. He's just being held in a different unit for his safety. So he doesn't get to go out as much as the regular, like general Pop, but he isn't in solitary. I hope that makes sense. So Josh's sentence is going to depend very much on what the judge thinks and how he feels about the situation. In my guess, I think the judge is going to give him the max of whatever the scale says. So if the scale is 10 to 14 years, I see him giving him 14. If it's 10 to 20 years, I see him giving 20. I don't see him going lower than 10. That's just my opinion based on my opinion. So I wish it could be 100. Like, truly, I would love Josh to go away for 100+ years and just never come out. But, you know, that could also happen too for a variety of reasons. So what are your thoughts about this specific attorney's estimation? Do you think it'll be 14 years or do you think it'll be 20? And as I told you before, it will be concurrent. So this will not be consecutive sentences, meaning even if he were sentenced to 40 years, he's still only going to serve 20 if he got the max, like, of the sentence of 20. So if he was sentenced to 28 years on each, like 14 and 14, it wouldn't be 28 years. It would be 14 because they, as a standard, do concurrent sentences in the federal system. The only time they would add another like time would be if he gets charged with like contempt or tampering with witnesses or any of the stipulations that were a part of his bond and pretrial conditions. So does this make you happy or does it make you sad? Tell me in the comments below. Bye guys.